Well, hey there, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit today. And today we have the Thundershot family on the bench. Well, almost all of them. So basically, this is Tamiya's answer to replacing the Hotshot chassis. The way the Hotshot chassis went together, it was prone to breakage where it connects to the gearboxes. And this was kind of Tamiya's solution to keeping a kind of high performance four-wheel drive chassis in the market and solving the breakage issues that the Hotshot had. So the Thundershot came out first. That came out in December of '87 and was the first one on the chassis. And it has a bathtub style chassis on it to where everything is much more integrated and connected than the previous Hotshot version was. It carried over some of the coolness of the Hotshot. It has the front monoshock, which actually works very well, surprisingly. It does carry the twin shocks in the rear on kind of a very aggressive angle, and that's kind of across all the Thundershot builds. Now, they did kind of bounce back and forth between the front shock and dual front shocks, but essentially the chassis is identical across the board. The only difference is really that front shock on some of them, and obviously the bodies. Pretty much all of them are rocking the same driver figure. These three all have the same driver figure. This one has the kind of classic torso helmet that's screwed in. But pretty much all of them are rocking kind of similar setups. So the Thundershot came out, like I said, in '87. It was re-released in 2005 and then just re-released in 2022. They're still available, and this one has not been run, probably won't be run. This one's going to stay pristine. I've got three others that I can run, and this one runs a lot. So that kind of moves me on to the Thunder Dragon, which there you go, Thunder Dragon. For some reason, this became the let's make it go faster and do a little bit better. So it has a few upgrades on it. It's getting a few more. And then we custom did the Lightning Dragon body on it just for fun. But basically these two are the same. Single front shock, dual rear shocks, still canted in the back. The only difference with this one is it has different tires that have a lot more grip on my track. What else did I do to it? I know we've tinkered with the suspension on this one, raising and lowering and softening and stuff like that. It's getting the rear sway bars, which I do have. I just need to put on. So the Thunder Dragon came out in 1988, so shortly after this one, and was re-released in 2021. I didn't see where they had released it in between there. So it's pretty much the Dragon family was way back when, and then they just started re-releasing them in the last couple years, to where the Thundershots come out a couple times. Now, for the Fire Dragon, they moved to the dual front shocks. So you have two shocks up front, a little bit softer springs on both, of course, because this one has to have a pretty stiff spring because it's doing the work for both sides. Still carrying the front sway bar. The shocks on these aren't quite as splayed in at the top. They tell you to move them to these outside mounts. Really haven't noticed much difference in the way the rear suspension works, whether they're canted all the way in or more straight up and down. They seem to kind of handle about the same. Like I said, the biggest difference with this guy is this has the plastic tray on the inside, but does not have the molded body figure in it. So this one you actually have kind of that, to me, a grasshopper type just floating guy in there. Now on this one it doesn't look too bad because he's kind of really close to that flat tray, and there is that tray in there blacking out the electronics and everything. The reason they went with this one, the little floating guy versus the molded figure, is the canopy on this one is much further forward than on the other one. So your driver figure sits up. The other driver figure sits back here, and this guy's sitting way up here. So if they had used the molded in Lexan body form, your driver would be sitting way back here, and you would just basically see through the window. So I understand why they did that. The screw on the top is kind of the only drawback. Everything else looks normal. And then let's see, so the Fire Dragon came out in 1989. This was released in 2008. and then back in 2020. So this was kind of one of the ones that I did see that had a more recent, but somewhere in between release of that one. So the Saint Dragon, this one was totally new for 2022. This had not previously come on the Thundershot chassis. So they did the Saint Dragon body on the Thundershot chassis, and it's set up pretty much the exact same way as the Fire Dragon is, except for this one does have the molded driver figure guy as the electronics cover. And this one, like I said, was only released recently in the beginning of 2022. There's also the Terra Scorcher. Now, I don't have that one yet, and that is very, very similar to these. The only thing different really with the Terra Scorcher is it comes with the rear sway bar setup, and that's the only one out of these that came with that rear sway bar that I'm aware of. So I do have that on my list of things to get, and I do kind of need to get it before they run out of stock on it and it doesn't come out for another 5 years. But, you know, there's a laundry list of cars on a whiteboard over there that are fighting for top spot, and it's constantly changing. But anyway, the Terra Scorcher came out in 1988 and was re-released in 2020. And like I said, the biggest difference with the Terra Scorcher, other than the body set, and that was kind of one of the ones that had a separate rear wing, kind of. I'll put up a picture so you guys can see it, but I really like the way that that one kind of has a space age main body and then kind of the big wraparound wing on the back. As far as wings go, you guys can see I did not put the big optional wing on the back of this. You know, I always remember it as running with the stubby shell on it, not the big wing. And, you know, just setting it on there just did not look right. It's like a billboard hanging out back there. And, you know, it's personal taste. And, you know, what I remember growing up and seeing in the magazines and stuff like that, it always seemed to be advertised with kind of the low, sleek body on it, and then that big wing was the option. And I didn't know anybody that ever ran that option, and I never really saw it, so, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, guys, that's kind of the wrap-up of my Dragon collection / Thundershot chassis cars. Huge shout-out to the RC Elf who sent over a couple of the Dragon cars for me. I really appreciate it, and it really kind of made me fall in love with them. You know, they are not for everybody. You know, the styling of them is very unique, and the reason they're kind of so unique is these body designs came from a Japanese comic series, Korokoro, and please don't scream at me if I'm mispronouncing that. That's just what it says, Korokoro. But basically, it was like a kid's comic, and they had, you know, these guys had these super fast, cool cars that, you know, fought evil, and, you know, they were kind of like the Power Rangers of RC, and each one of them had their own individual car, so that's why each one of them kind of has this cool, super, you know, fantasy-looking body on them. And growing up, I didn't think much of them. You know, I'd seen them in magazines and it was like, it's not really, it doesn't look like a buggy, so I wasn't into it. But, you know, once I got my hands on one and you see it up close and you drive it, you know, you kind of fall in love with them, and now I absolutely adore them. So, you know, that is kind of the collection, everybody. So another quick what's on the wall today, the Thundershot family. Anyway, guys, let me know how I'm doing in the comments, you know. Like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. We're really starting to crank up towards 2,000. You know, I would love to hit that by the end of the year. So if you guys aren't subscribed, please just, you know, hit that little subscribe thing for me. Make me happy. Anyway, guys, everybody out there, be happy, be healthy, be safe, and I will catch you on the next one. Have a great Sunday.